So this is the second video of our flat mould series. We've got 4 videos that's going to be going through the process with you of making a flat mould and also applying it. So the first video I was showing you some sculpting techniques. In this video we're going to be achieving this as our final outcome. So we've got the sculpt in the middle, we've got this flashing area around the edge, and then we've also got our wall as well, which is going to hold all the product inside the mould and stop it running everywhere. Because at the end of this video we're going to have a flat mould piece that we're going to be able to run, which will be video number 3, and then I'll show you the application of that in video number 4. So to start off with, I've just rolled out a thin sausage shape of Chavant. You can use other things. I like to use a clay extruder to do this as well. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go around my mould as close to the edge as possible. You want to be about 2 to 3 millimeters away from the edge of your sculpt. And I'm just going to press this edging down. So this is going to create the flashing. So this area, when we come to running the piece, we'll technically be flooding this area with some silicone, because that's going to help to protect the edges of our silicone appliance once we've made it. Now what I'm going to do next is we want to create a pyramid or like a Toblerone shape with the top cut off. So I'm just going to show you a little piece on here. I'm using one of my loop tools, which is in a diamond shape, to create a Toblerone. And then I'm just going to take one of my other loop tools, which is a triangle shape, and I'm just going to take the point off. So this is what we're wanting to achieve with our flashing area here. So I'm just going to smooth the edging now, and I am just checking the space of our flashing area. We're roughly about 2 to 3 millimeters around there, so that's going to have a nice thin edge. You don't want to be going any further out with your flashing, because what will happen with this is you'll end up having a lot of excess cap plastic on there, which can also wrinkle as well when you're doing your application. Just use a rolling pin to give me a nice smooth piece of Chavant. Next, I'm going to build this wall area here. So this is what's going to keep all our silicone inside the mould when we pour it and stop it from spilling over the sides. So you want to make sure that your wall is higher than the highest point of your sculpt. And you can either roll out one large piece to go all the way around, or you can do it in sections. And all I'm going to do is just place the clay, again, a few millimeters away from where I've done the edge of the flashing. I'm just adding on another piece, so I'm just going to make sure that's blended together with the piece before. You want to make sure you haven't got any gaps in this, because you don't want your silicone to leak when you fill it. And then once you've gone all the way around, you'll have something that looks like this, which is ready for moulding. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some rice into my mould, because this is going to give me roughly the weight of how much silicone that I need to use. I'm just going to pop some cling film into my mould just to help protect it, and also so it's easier to get the rice out. And then I'm just going to place some rice inside the walls. And then I've got my scales here. I'm just going to remove the rice and weigh how much I've got. So I've roughly got almost 30 grams of rice in here. So I'm going to be mixing up 30 grams of silicone all together to fill my mould. So I've just sprayed my mould with some petrolise. This isn't essential, but I just find it's a little bit just easier for peeling the flat mould out when we come to doing that. So I've got my scales here with my tub. We're using Key 22 silicone. So this silicone is mixed 50-50 to parts A and B. Make sure when you're working with this you don't get the parts mixed up, because if you contaminate either of these tubs with the other part, it will cure up and spoil the product for you. So first part I'm going to mix is the A. So the A is the catalyst and the B is the base. And I've got my gloves on and I've just got an apron on as well to protect my clothing. So when I measured out the rice to see how much we needed, it was around about the 30 gram mark. So I'm going to mix up 15 grams of A and 15 grams of B. So I doubled gloves so I could change my gloves in between to make sure that I wasn't mixing either parts with each other. So part A is white and part B is blue. So there's the pot. I've got both parts A and B in there of Key 22. Next I'm going to mix the parts together and then I'm going to go over to the degasser. What the degasser does is it removes the majority of the air bubbles within the silicone. So it means when you pour in your mould, it reduces the chance of having any air bubbles that might damage the detail or anything like that within your mould. So the degasser creates a vacuum which removes the air from the chamber that the silicone's been placed in. And this takes the air out of the silicone and helps to reduce bubbles within it. But not everyone has a degasser, so I'm just going to show you a little technique to use if you haven't got access to one. I've just mixed up some more Key 22 silicone and I'm just going to pour this from a height nice and thin to cover up my sculpt. So pouring from a height nice and thin helps to reduce the bubbles within the mixture. So now I've filled up my mould, I'm just going to tap it on the surface. And what the tapping does is help to nudge, helps to remove bubbles. So you'll see bubbles then coming to the surface. So the little vibrations go through the tile and just loosen any of the air bubbles that we may have within the product. So Key 22 has a pot life of 15 minutes, so that's the working time with it, and a demold time of 1 to 2 hours. It's temperature dependent, so the warmer the room that you're in, the quicker the silicone will cure. On the other side of things, the colder the room is, the longer it's going to take your silicone to cure up as well. So join us for the following video where we're going to be taking out our moulds and getting them prepared for running them with silicone to be able to produce a silicone appliance which can be used within your prosthetic makeup applications.